Today on the Relationship Renovation Podcast, we sit down with Zach Brittle. He's the host of Marriage Therapy Radio. He asks just direct questions that really disarm you. And we're talking about intimacy.
If you guys are going to have sex, the two of you are going to have sex at, let's say on Thursday night, 8 o'clock. That's when it's going to happen. How far in advance do you need to know?
30 to 45 seconds,
What about you?
It's like a planning, prepping my little mind and body for it all day.
In an empowered relationship, couples are always asking this question: how do I give you what you need in order for me to get what I want? A spontaneous, athletic, multi-orgasmic sex life doesn't just happen forever because you picked the right partner 25 years ago.
Hello, all, and welcome to the Relationship Renovation Podcast. I'm Tarah Kerwin.
And my name is EJ Kerwin, and we are going to jump right in because we want to get every single minute out of our time with our guest today. And we were just lucky enough to be on his podcast, and he said he'd come on over to us. And so I'd like to introduce everybody to Zach Brittle. He is a certified relational life therapist and a certified Gottman therapist, which he just let us know he's the only person in the world to be certified in both currently. He's host of the widely acclaimed podcast, Marriage Therapy Radio. If you haven't listened to that, go check it out because he has really wonderful, heartfelt conversation on there. Zach, he's also a best-selling author. He's also known for the Relationship Alphabet and the Marriage Therapy Journal, both of which offer practical tools for couples looking to deepen connection and improve communication. And his writing has been featured in outlets like the Washington Post, HuffPost, and Psychology Today, where he shares accessible, insightful perspectives on modern relationships. Welcome, Zach.
I'm pretty fancy.
That's a lot. That's
awesome,
impressive.
Though. I feel so grateful that you're here with us.
You left out the line in my bio that gets me more credibility in business than anything that I've ever written. Which
What's
is
that?
That I have been happily married to my wife for 25 out of 28 years.
Whoa. When were the three unhappy?
There are three totally different years. I would say around year 8, and then one around year 20, and then one around year 25 or so. I don't know exactly what they are, but like we went through phases for sure.
I love that, 25 out of 28 years. Well, congratulations on that.
Thanks.
25 years, man. It's just like, there's a point where like 25 years seemed like an unachievable thing, right? And
what's weird is I'm 51 and I have memories that are like a lifetime ago, but in those memories, I was also an adult.
Yes.
So like, it's not like a lifetime ago when I was in high school. It's sort of like a lifetime ago when I had a kid and a mortgage and whatever. It's bizarre to think about that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we want to dive in. The topic that our audience loves is intimacy, right? Is like, because that's the thing is like this relationship, there's supposed to be certain aspects that are between, me and my partner that happen nowhere else but between the two of us. Yet it's such a struggle for couples to sustain over years. And the topic we really wanted to take on was like this balance between emotional intimacy and physical intimacy that oftentimes the couple comes in maybe because one person is like, I'm not happy with our sex life, the frequency, the quality of it. And the other person is like, I just feel emotionally disconnected. Yeah. And how do you rebuild that? I mean, is this something that you're, that you hear a lot about, Zach?
Yeah. Although, of course, I think it's, the kind of the cliche anyway, is that women crave more emotional intimacy that helps them become available for sex, and men create more sexual intimacy, which helps them access more of their emotional state. It's a common sort of cliche in the world. It's not universal. It doesn't stand up all the time, but, you just, when you introduced it, you said kind of the tension between emotional intimacy and physical intimacy. I actually think physical intimacy is different than sexual intimacy. And there's more. There's intellectual intimacy, there's spiritual intimacy. And, I think if people are going to have a healthy, intimate life together, they need all of that. They don't just need to like balance the sort of the tension between, say, two types. They need to really negotiate terms in all of those areas. And sometimes there's 5 that I just listed, like that there's emotional, intellectual, physical, sexual, spiritual. And I sort of think about them as like, if you're trying to hold a hammer or a tennis racket, you need all 5 fingers. You have to hold your, like you can't hold it like this or like this, you need all of it. And that conversation usually begins to shift things for couples because they get outside of this like straight up binary negotiation that they're having to do between one another. So
yeah, they recognize that there's not a balance, and that the importance of having a balance in all the different areas. I guess they're kind of getting it out of like one little compartment, because that was the biggest thing too. Like when I'll just never forget, there was this one session, and if this couple's listening, I won't call your name out, but he was huge and tall and like 6'7", and it was like our 3rd session, and he's like, why haven't we talked about sex yet? And he's just like in my front office where we do all of the billing. And I like stood back like a little shocked, and I said, oh, like, okay, hang on a second. And I remember that was kind of before we were entering our session. And I, kind of shared with him, like, in front of the couple, like, I've got to let you know, like when that energy came around that we haven't talked about the physical intimacy yet, like, right, trying to use like my counter transference in healthy ways. Like it was a little startling. And I'm wondering what happens with the 2 of you do you find that energy to happen at the home? And I'm telling you, just that opened up this whole huge conversation around, like, she would hide in her closet to get changed into her night pajamas because she was so taken back by the intense energy because they didn't feel emotionally connected. And I just remember it was such a clear like dynamic where he truly didn't understand the impact or the idea of emotional connection because of what he did at work was very compartmentalized. Like he had to be like a bully kind of at work, and he was bringing home that energy into the home, and it made her feel really unsafe. And so kind of unpacking that into all the different levels of intimacy, like really helped him. He didn't know. He thought it was just one compartment. He's like, oh, what is this emotional intimacy we're talking about? Say more.
Well, I mean, I think what I just heard you say was he answered his own question. Why haven't we talked about sex yet? Well, because it's fucking scary when you talk about it like that. Like, yeah. And I don't want to, like, I wouldn't, duh. So it seems like you were able to reflect that to him in a pretty powerful way. What I think about when people ask me that question, or when they say, hey, we want to talk about sex, I go, okay, if we talk about sex, if we do that for the next, say, half hour, and it goes really well, you get what you want out of the conversation. What is that? What is it what do you get in a half an hour that you don't have now? Oh, well, I want to agree how often we're going to have it, or whatever it is. Like I just made that up. I go, okay, let's just find out. Is that what you want? Is that the conversation you want to have about sex? Is that a successful conversation for you? Where we get to the number of times we're going to do it, and it's, rarely people, when they are talking about sex, they're very rarely talking about the same thing. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes you have to actually level the playing field and say, okay, we can talk about it, but what exactly are we talking about? Because, that's often why these conversations get derailed, or why they can't do it at home, because they're not talking about the same thing.
Well, it also seems like that, of all of those types of intimacy you talked about, sex is the one where you can actually sort of make it quantifiable. When you're talking about like emotional intimacy or intellectual intimacy or spiritual intimacy, it's like, how do you measure that? Sex is the one you can be like, we had sex twice this year. It's
I'll
like
push back on that a little bit, because intercourse is the one you can measure. Intimacy, you can't measure. Like, sexual intimacy is a lot of things that includes intercourse and may also include orgasm. But sexual intimacy is your ability to talk about it. It's your ability to make out without, getting naked. It's your ability to watch a sexy television show and reflect what that did for you. It's your ability to go into a sex shop and look at toys together and think about whether or not these would be things that you would do. And there's lots of sexually intimate things that aren't about intercourse, you know?
But I don't think that's like the way, I think like the way we look at it.
Please say it.
Well, I just think like what we learn, the way we conceptualize sex is not in that way at all.
I know. And that's the problem.
Like at all. There's zero education on it.
Yeah.
And so it feels like totally intuitive to most people, men and women, that really like sexual intimacy is intercourse. It may be foreplay. Mm-hmm. But all those other things are not even a part because we have no guidance in it. There's like tons of shame around like, you know, a few of them. It's just bizarre. I've always just found that bizarre. It's like this thing that we all know we do and we don't talk about it. We just want to tell you all about something that we offer, which is the Relationship Renovation at Home program. It's basically the way in which we've worked with couples for years in our counseling center, but a way that you and your partner can do it at home.
It gives couples structure to build that emotional safety and the skills that we didn't learn, but that are so essential to learn in building a healthy relationship.
Yeah, there's lessons, there are videos. It's a real structured way for you and your partner to reconnect. So just go to our website. There's a tab on top, online programs, and you can download a free sample. You can check it out. We know it's made a significant difference in hundreds of couples' relationships. So please go check that out.
You know, I always have this conversation with couples is that if you think about all of the sex that you've consumed in like public and like the public domain, whether that's pornography or magazines in the grocery store aisle, all of the sexy sex is not between a man and a woman who are married to each other.
Yeah.
We've decided that is not sexy, or it's too sacred to talk about. We've put it behind a door and said that kind is off limits for us to explore, to think about out loud, to talk about in public. I mean, you know, I don't know, EJ, if you've ever had this experience when you were younger and unmarried, be like, yeah, I totally hung out with this girl last night. We made out for like 5 hours and then I got laid and like, we'll have that conversation among the boys. Mm-hmm. But then you go out with your fellow husbands.
Nobody. Yeah. That's so interesting.
And you're like, yeah, man, I got laid last night. It was the best. We tried like 5 new positions. Like you don't do that because it's in this other place.
Yeah.
And I think in the therapy office anyway, we need to bring some of that back into the domain of conversation between the two of us so that we can actually, us two spouses, so that we can actually explore some of the questions that we have and some of the nuances that are there that why would we know about that if we don't talk about it?
Yeah. Well, even like the way you talk to your partner about it is like pretty like not super robust, even like positively. It's like kind of like, oh, did you like that? Like it? Did you,
Did you have an orgasm?
Yeah, that's sort of it. It's like, okay, all right.
Was that real or fake? No, just kidding.
I tell people all the time, I think people need to have more physical intimacy that's not sexual and more sexual intimacy that's not physical.
So
more
this.
Physical intimacy that is, we're just like showering together. We're just cooking together. We're holding hands. We're gazing into each other's eyes. We're making out in a way that doesn't mean, oh, this must mean we're going to go into bed, there's the sexual intimacy that's not physical is the kind that I hinted at a little bit earlier. Like, do we talk about it in the car, at the coffee shop? Do we go into a sex store? Do we compare notes? Do we listen to a podcast about sex? Like, I think raising the level of awareness and education around it is actually part of how you get better at it. Here's one that here's a question that I think a lot of couples don't ask, but like, what is sex for?
What do you think, Tarah? What's sex for?
I'm so sorry.
You waiting for the answer?
No, I thought he was frozen. I'm going with pleasure.
Okay.
I'm going with pleasure. And then of course, like, babies, procreation, families.
Those are different though.
Yeah.
Like when sex is for babies, who hates having sex? It's people who can't get pregnant.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, that's like, so true.
It's so hard. It's a labor, right?
Yeah. I mean, from the first thing that came was like, sex is for pleasure and release.
Sure. Yeah. For some people, sex is for fun. For some people, it's like a job interview. For some people, it's for violence, right? We know these stories. But when we're in our healthy marriage relationship or a committed relationship, maybe we're done having children. Mm-hmm. What's it for? Is it for pleasure and connection? Because if it's for pleasure and connection, then it's going to be different than what it's always been. And we have to negotiate those terms with each other, or else, what are we doing? We're just kind of showing up and hoping we get what we were looking for.
Well, if there's anything where you don't know why you're doing it and you don't know why your partner's doing it, what are the chances that you're going to be doing it in the way that's satisfying to both of you?
Exactly.
I don't know, because I think of like sex. What is sex for? I mean, it's for sex is like, in the context of committed relationship, it's like this special thing that's only for us. It's like this like personal, deep connection that no one where like everything. It's like the most vulnerable thing. It's like it's like that show Naked and Afraid. You're like, when are you the most vulnerable? When you're like naked. When it's and it's like that I can be like totally safe, with this person. But if it's not about that, if it's about something completely separate.
Well, is it like, sure. Because if it's for us and if it's for pleasure, does it require orgasm? Mm-hmm. For either one of you? Like, can you have sex, not have an orgasm, and have it be good?
For sure. I think so. I mean, there's many times where I haven't been able to, but I just love that spiritual connection with you when we're that close.
Yeah. I mean, that's so interesting. I mean, we just don't talk about it.
I know. I love the way Zach is going with this.
Because what I'm getting is like, we don't talk about it in this like deeper, nuanced way.
Definitive. It's like almost like you're defining it at all these different levels.
Because your buddy in the lobby who was like, why haven't we talked about sex yet? And go, are you ready? Like, do you want to? Because we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. You might
hear something you don't want to hear.
Yeah. I mean,
you might hear I don't like it, or
another one of my favorite questions. She doesn't want to have sex. She's not into sex, or he doesn't want to have, whatever. Okay, fine. When you don't want to have sex, what don't you want?
Oh, what part of it? What aspect of it?
I mean, you don't want pain. You don't want boredom. You don't want to lose sleep. You don't want to feel used. Yeah. Like, what don't you want when you don't want sex? Because a lot of times guys in particular here, I don't want you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe that's not really what's happening.
Yeah. I think a big one that is huge. Like, I don't want the anxiety of like starting even. Mm-hmm. I don't want the uncertainty of like, do I even want to, or is my body going to respond? I don't want the anxiety of are you going to do the things I like?
I'm just like, while we're talking about all of this, and I love how it's just making me think and feel in a different way. When you have a couple where there's it's just so broken down, their intimacy, like in all parts, there's no emotional safety, like maybe physical intimacy, or if sex is happening because it's like a task. Like, what are the first steps that you take with a couple to kind of get them into this conversation where both can be heard and it's okay?
So we're in my office and they are having a hard time beginning this conversation.
Sure.
Is that what you're saying?
Beginning these questions, like these questions that you ask them sort of freeze them.
Yeah. Well, again, I start kind of the same place I started with you guys and with this hypothetical guy. Like, okay, we can talk about sex. That's fine. Let's do that. If we do that and you get what you want and it goes well for you and you feel good, you feel better at the end of our session, what happens? What happens between now and then? And then that's where you start to get like what's really going on, what they're really looking for, and I won't let them have a conversation that they're not aligned on. I won't even entertain it. And I'll delay it until we get to some agreement. Because if it's just, if we just want to get smarter, that's different than we want to make a decision. or if we just want to vent, or one of them just wants to vent, that's different than we're trying to, gain some context or whatever. And I don't, for me, sex therapy in itself is this entire industry that's built on different philosophies around pleasure, or, touch or sensation or whatever. And all of that's good. There's a good and valuable place for that. I very rarely get to that with my clients because I spend a lot more time in setting the container.
Yeah.
And so I don't need them to undress in my office or to spiritually undress or to physically undress. I don't end up in their bedroom.
Yeah.
Often, at least not. I mean, and if I do, I go, look, I have this conversation 10 times a week. This is not tittling for me. I'm not turned on by this moment. I'm not like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I try to just really make it about them and what they want. I don't know if that's a direct answer to your question, but it's the beginning of me getting permission to ask some of these questions.
When you're defining, like, what are we actually talking about?
Making it,
because sex clear. Is like, it's just like way too, you're saying like, it's way too broad. We got to know what we're talking about it. And we got to know like what for each person, like sort of the perceived, like what would be a good outcome. Mm-hmm. And because one thing I heard like there is I think sometimes when people ask their partner, hey, can we talk about sex? They're really saying, hey, can I state the way that my needs aren't getting met?
Which I would want to be clear about before we started, right? If they go, hey, I want to talk about how my needs aren't getting met, I go, okay, we can talk about that. I mean, that should also include some inquiry into, are you sure you're meeting your partner's needs? Because this is a negotiation. Being in any long-term committed relationship is a negotiation that we're having over years and years. Yeah.
And then there's the segue there of like, okay, if one partner's conceptualizing, okay, this is to me, we're talking about sex as a portion of intimacy, and then the other person, and then you're like, okay, well, let's make sure we're connecting with your partner about, are their needs getting met? Then it segues into like well, oftentimes, yeah, it's about emotional intimacy. Can we talk about the way they aren't getting their emotional needs met, how their spiritual needs aren't getting met?
Yeah, my brain's going in a couple of different directions. You mentioned that I'm a certified relational life therapist. That's Terry Reel's stuff. And Terry talks about, in an empowered relationship, couples are always asking this question. And this is the question. How do I give you what you need in order for me to get what I want? Mm-hmm. So that's not how most people negotiate. When we go to a car dealership, we're trying to get as much car as possible and we want to pay as little as possible for it. So we're not actually coming in with a spirit of generosity. We're coming in with a spirit of like, how do I get? This question flips it over and says, I know what I want. I want sex 3 times a week, 3 times a month. What do you need from me? How do I give you what you need in order for me to get that? Is very different than when I get that, I'll be happy and then I'll make you happy. Or when I get that, then I can rest and relax and I can do my thing. So how do I give you what you need in order for me to get what I want is the beginning of exploring the negotiation in which each of us is satisfied by the terms, by the deal, Yeah,
I think this is where a big sticking point though comes in, right? Is that, and I've seen it definitely with number of couples, is that there feels like oftentimes in the male-female dynamic, the sort of cliche you were talking about, that like, okay, well, I have to create this emotional safety, meet these emotional needs, at which point you will feel like you can be sexually and meet my needs. So how do I measure that? And what's the equivalency? And that's where it starts to feel really like transactional of like, well, how do I measure, again, back to like, I can measure sex twice a week. How do I measure the level of emotional connection that you need in order to feel like you would want to have sex 2 times a week?
I mean, if I'm talking to the two of you, what I would do is go, well, I don't know, Tara, what do you think? How do we know that you're getting what you need? How does EJ know?
Well, this is interesting because we try to talk about intimacy, like, especially when there's like not a lot of physical intimacy happening. And it's like, we try not to go like 2 weeks without at least talking about it. And And EJ's like trying to make it black and white sometimes, like, because I think that's easier for him. Like, well, if we just have to take like sex off the table, we can, like, if you don't have that desire. And I'm like, well, no, like I just talking about it, like even spending like 30 minutes a week talking about it, like that makes me feel really connected to. I don't want it to be black or white. It's either on the table or off the table. So for me, it's just like, hey, when we talk about sex or intimacy in any form, like that's all I need to feel that connection. I don't know if that answers your question, but like for me, I need conversations, and I can say 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes or date night. I can kind of define that, but I can't say that would end up in actual sex.
And you might not know.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
it's not this.
Yes.
It's not this. It's not a transaction. It's a relationship. There's a story that John Gottman likes to tell about observing. He was at the Kinsey Institute and he was watching different videos of animals having sex. Do you know the story I'm about to tell you?
Well, I went to Indiana University and the Kinsey Institute was there, and I read a lot about this. Yeah. So
I have never been able to find this video, but he talks about it like all the time. But it's about porcupines, about two porcupines trying to have sex, and the male porcupine walks around. He tries to mount her, and her quills are up, and he can't get on her because he'll stab himself to death. So he walks around and he puts his two paws on her face, and he brushes her face like this, and then he walks around to the back because he's like ready to have sex with her, and her quills are still up, and he can't. So he comes back around to the front and he rubs her face again, just puts his paws on her and tries to calm her down. Goes back a second time. Nope, quills still up. Not going to happen. So he comes around a third time, and he just takes his paws and puts them on her face, and then her quills, they go down. Her quills go down. So he walks around and he mounts her, and they have sex. It takes like 2.8 seconds or something like that. And, it's all over. But the reason that John tells that story is because, we don't know what she needs. She needs to get her quills down. And is it twice? Is it 3 times? Is it 5 times? You kind of get the feeling that this porcupine would have rubbed her face 10 times if he needed to, because he was trying to make sure that he didn't stab himself to death, And I think, there's this mystery that in a relationship, we try to figure out, how do I give you what you need in order for me to get what I want? And that's, I think, part of being in the long term. It's part of the long-term part of it. We're in a long-term committed relationship. We're not playing the short game. We're playing the long game.
I think for me, I think the shift out of I have to start paying attention to other things that I want. There has to be like other things that become just as valuable. And I think, it's weird. It's because we sit here always in this role here as like half therapists, half two people that deal with issues like this. Because I can kind of play those mental gymnastics with myself. Like we shared, I think you asked us that question of or we came to a question when we were on your podcast, and it was around I came to this place of acceptance of what I have right now. If this is what I have, then that's enough. It's an interesting thing to lead a client in that place or to a listener, right? And I don't know what it is. It's just there's such a value certain people put on sex. It's such a thing that I want to have sex. I want to have a healthy sex life. And they get very attached to it. Yeah. And then when they rub their face 2 or 3 times like the porcupine did, and they don't get it, and then they don't get it for months or years. Yeah. There's a point where it is the thing. And if I'm never going to get this, well, then I'm never going to be happy. And you know what? I'm not rubbing your face anymore.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's, that can become part of the conversation we have when it's done in good faith. Yeah. When it's done in generosity, when it's about my resentment, my bitterness, that's not going anywhere. That conversation is going to be problem. But if you're literally grieving, listen, babe, I've tried everything I know how. I actually think I've done everything you've asked me to do, and it's not happening. I don't know what to do. A lot of times I'll reverse engineer this to people, and I go, you can have a healthy sex life. You can have as much sex as you want. Literally, you can pay for it. You can You can go to clubs downtown and, join groups. You can have affair. You can do it. You can have as much sex as you want. Do you want to pay the price? Do you want the consequences that come with that? And then the partner usually would go, no. That's the non-starter for me. You can't have that. That's not how we're going to do this. And I go, oh, well, now we're back to the negotiating table. We have to figure out like, how do you meet each other? And we do this. We do like intellectual intimacy. We outsource it all the time. Emotional intimacy. We outsource it all the time. I go to my therapist and I have deeply emotional conversations that meet me in an intimate place. And that's okay. It's acceptable. Or I join a book club because my wife and I don't like to read the same books. But the second we talk about outsourcing sexual intimacy, people get all antsy. Yeah. And I get that. I'm not critical of that. But if you're not going to let them outsource it, if we're not going to create an outsourcing agreement, then we have to figure out how to insource it. And that comes with making some trade-offs and some compromises that maybe don't feel like imminently accessible.
Well, and I think it's like so interesting because there is something very special about sex, there's something incredibly unique about it. And that it is okay if I have an intellectual conversation and get that need met with somebody else. Emotional, it gets a little, that a little bit tricky, but the line's hard in sex. It's hard and early. It's like, I don't want somebody holding your hand, let alone having intercourse with you.
Listen, no doubt, 100%. Yes, there is something special about sex. It is a sacred act, and it is a thing that is special, and it is beautiful. And also, it's not. Also, it's athletic, and it's primal, and it's instinctual. Like sometimes it's just functional, like survival of the species time. It's like, let's make some babies. If the apocalypse comes, like we're not talking about having to figure out how to be. We're talking about how to propagate the species. So I don't want to crap on it, but like, is it special? Because if it is, then we need to figure out how to make it special for us.
Yeah.
And that conversation has to happen out loud with vulnerability and in good faith. Because, it's a spontaneous, athletic, multi-orgasmic sex life doesn't just happen forever because you picked the right partner 25 years ago. It happens because you continue to renegotiate terms about how to make this work for us as our body changes and as our libido changes and as our interest changes and as our emotional state changes. So that's the thing that I think is the value of getting into it in therapy, because, if we're just stuck in these like old ways of thinking, there's no reason to expect it to get any better.
I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking about all like, yes, in our personal life, but just so many couples like middle-aged, after kids are grown, maybe going through perimenopause, menopause, like female loses her entire sex drive. Not that she's not attracted to her partner, but it's like that drive, it just feels gone and depleted. And of course, I'm like, okay, well, how often are you guys talking about this? And how can you create emotional intimacy from this? Because it sounds like both of you are grieving and blah, blah, blah. And we try to go through all of that. But like, it's like, you hear these podcasts like, oh, perimenopause, menopause could take up to 10 years. And then the partner's like, 10 years of no sex and no sex drive. Like, it's like, I sometimes feel stuck in it because I know the feeling of no sex drive from all the hormone stuff. And so it's just like, I find myself being like, I don't know. If you know the answer, let me know. Because I'm trying to listen to all the podcasts out there. Like, talking about it makes me feel good. Grieving that I've lost that part of myself for right now, I'm accepting of that. Being on the same page that I know EJ probably feels more lonely than he ever has because of my little frozen sex drive, but it's like, how do you take it? Because we have a lot of couples that navigate that period. Like, and that's where we had one husband say, I'm about to start having affairs. Like, if you don't give me sex, I cannot last this much longer. Like it had been a couple of years, but like he said it clear, direct in therapy. And she was like, oh, like, what do you do with that?
What I would do with that is I go, okay, that sounds like you getting is really important to you. What you get is really important to you. And we just have to call that the truth.
Yeah.
If you want to, though, you could begin to think about like what you could give. Like I think about my wife, same age, perimenopause, the whole thing. We're entering our own kind of adaptive phases around what our sexuality is like. And, part of what we're toying with or beginning to toy with is like, why don't we learn about this new body together? Like I can learn, like we can learn like what is working and what's not working. And, how do I get really curious about the new tools or the new machine, the new body that I'm dealing with here, because again, for me, a question that I think another question that I think people don't quite consider ever is what counts when we're talking about sex. What counts? Is it when I have an orgasm that's successful, or is it some other thing that could simply be in the category of pleasure and connection that doesn't look like what we've always decided it used to look like? Like that's a conversation couples need to have.
I love that.
Yeah. Can it become like a space instead of a act?
Yes.
I have a couple. I don't see them anymore because I fixed them. Just kidding.
You're so good, Zach.
They came in, they got what they came in for, which was around their sex life. They have sex twice a week, ritually. They have sex Wednesday night and Saturday morning. Wednesday night's for him and Saturday morning is for her. And they never get to sex wondering what's going to happen. What is this about? He runs the show on Wednesdays and she runs the show on Saturdays. And that has become their system for how they trade off. And if he wants a blowjob and to roll over and go to sleep, he gets to. And if she wants to, have a prolonged foreplay session that includes, toys and, whatever, and a bath on Saturday morning, that's what she gets. And so they've kind of figured it out. So sex isn't for orgasm, and it's not for fun, and it's not for play, and it's not for violence, it's not for babies. It's for him. And then it's for her. And they make that up as they go. And I think that's an interesting solution because they're not negotiating in the bedroom. They've pre-negotiated all that, and it works for them both.
Well, and a lot of what you're saying is sort of circling back to healthy communication.
Yeah. Which is why therapy is so powerful. Here's another one. Sorry, these are my greatest hits. I'll bring one more. If you guys are going to have sex, the two of you are going to have sex at, let's say on Thursday night, 8:00. That's when it's going to happen. How far in advance do you need to know?
Like for real? Like,
yeah.
I mean, like 30 to 45 seconds, is like,
yeah. EJ's like 7:59.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah.
It's Tarah? Like a planning, prepping my little mind and body for it all day.
So like 7 a.m.?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the fact that couples don't have that conversation about what their on-ramp is, is often a problem because he's like, I'm ready. And she's like, I need 12 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe she's like, I'm ready. And he's like, what? Hold on a second. I thought you needed 12 hours. If we haven't had this communication, then why would it go well?
Well, and in some ways it's like you're also like, you're rebuilding the paradigm, because the paradigm for most people comes out of their first, months or years together. Of like the way we have sex is it's organic. We've had a couple of drinks. We've come back home. We have sex. That's like not even possible anymore with us. And the fact that we do sort of hold on to that paradigm that it's like, oh my God, maybe we've gone out. We had a nice Italian dinner and a couple glasses of wine. Maybe it's going to happen tonight at 11:45 once the kids go to bed is like a freaking setup. It's just like, it has to be like, we have to start looking at it in that that's not the way it works anymore.
See, I think people think that it's organic, but it's not, right? When you're dating somebody and you're sexually active, but maybe you don't live together and you're at the dinner table and you say, hey, you want to come back to my place tonight? You've just given a 3-hour or a 45-minute warm up. You've given the cue well in advance, right? Or if we're having an affair, like the cue is, okay, we're meeting at this hotel, next Saturday. That's, couples who are in the grind together all the time, those cues have evaporated. They're not as obvious as you think. So we sort of think it's organic, but it's not that it's organic. It's that we're missing the cues, or we haven't agreed about what the cues are anymore.
No, we're just like praying that, like, you know,
the stars align,
basically. Yeah. That like somehow it's going to align. And then it sets people up for a lot of displeasure, unhappiness, poor communication, resentment. I mean, I think what I find like super valuable today, Zach, is like you're giving some people some questions.
So outside of the box.
Yeah, that are outside of the box. They're a little uncomfortable. Yeah. I feel like a few times you would ask them, and even though like I could have just been a therapist and like pretended like, oh, I'm just going to approach this therapeutically, like they froze me a little bit. I was just like, oh shit, like one, what's my answer? And two, do I really want to know what Tarah's answer is? Or am I ashamed and embarrassed that I don't fucking know, that we don't know this? Like, duh. Like, so yeah, thank you, Zach. This is, I think there's some great stuff. If you're listening to this, listen to it again and write down some of these questions, because
I know I'm like, can people go to your website? Do you have like a list of questions? Like, how do you psychoeducate on this? Cause it's so different from anything we read about the emotional safety in order to talk about sex and intimate connection. But the way you ask questions in the ZB way, the Zach, like I'm blown away. Like it's on, I haven't, and we've had a lot of guests on our shows. We've read so many books. We've developed our own model. Like the way you ask these questions and make it about negotiations and sexy sex not being like even that, like that's like a whole conversation right there. Like, yeah, sexy sex is what you see on the magazines and on the TV, but like,
One time we made it into Phil and Claire Dunphy's bedroom. Remember that on Modern Family, where the kids walked in and they were having sex, and it was like, what is happening right now? I'm not supposed to see this on television on Modern Family. And it was like, it blew my mind. I was like, hold on a second. Why did that blow my mind?
Well, yes.
Because it's isolated.
It doesn't belong in the public domain.
It's so...
Well, no, Zach, we just were watching Lioness yesterday, Lioness season 2, and the daughter walked in on the pier. She's like, I'm traumatized forever. Yeah. And I was like...
I mean, that's the interesting point there, right there, right? Like, yeah, like like the most kink, whatever, that's accessible. Like that's the stuff people can get access to. Actual intimate sex between somebody who's been married for 25 years, we have no access to that. We don't know what the hell that looks like, you know, and that's what we need. That's what 95% of us, that's the type of sex we're striving for. Right. We're not looking for, you know, whatever, tentacle sex, you know. Personally, I'm not looking for tentacle sex.
Oh, man. Well, okay. So how do we wrap? What would you say if for listeners, right? We have a ton of couples that listen to this podcast. Like, what 2-3 questions could they just start with, even just at an individual level, to start like crunching on a little, or maybe even, hey, can we answer this question together? Right? Heard Zach on the Relationship Renovation Podcast and blew my brain up, like, oh my gosh.
I mean, I always start with the same two. What's it for? And what counts?
What's it for and what counts? And then I really
clarify that the second one a little bit.
Okay. If we want more sex, if we want more sexual intimacy, what counts?
What counts?
Does only an orgasm count? Does only sex with penetration and your orgasm, is that the only thing that counts? Or does making out in the shower count? Because then you can have a lot more sex.
Yeah.
You know, does watching a sexy show count? Does watching Outlander together count? Does going to shopping for toys count? Because then we can have a lot more sex if a lot more stuff counts.
See, honey, we're having more sex than you even know.
We're making our list tonight. We're going to figure out maybe not tonight.
I know I feel it could be a part 2, but also the idea really quick. And I know we have a hard end, but Zach, that to talk about that process, like EJ just needs 45 seconds. I need 12 hours.
Yeah.
Like to get on the same page around that, because that was just like, oh, I never even I just always felt bad that I wasn't spontaneous like that. Like, I wish I could just make that happen. Just give me a blue pill. What are they called? The things that,
Yeah.
I'm just laughing.
And I also like the one that says when one partner doesn't want sex, or when somebody doesn't want sex, what don't they want?
Yeah. I like that question too. Well, we'll put all these in our show notes too. So, well, thank you, Zach, for your wisdom.
I hope that we can continue to be friends.
And, likewise, man. It's a pleasure. It's
that's
fun.
Awesome. You're just great. And thank you for your wisdom, your knowledge, the work you do, for your 25 out of 28 happily married years.
Something. We're creeping up on it. It was
absolutely.
It changes, of course. I keep surprised that we keep ticking years off. But I'm grateful for them.
Yeah. Thank you, Zach. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. As always, take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Bye-bye. Hello, relationship renovation listeners. Just wanted to say thank you so much for listening, for all of the awesome reviews, the comments, the feedback on our YouTube channel. We're just so grateful. We offer these podcasts free of charge. If you do want to make a donation, that's always super helpful, and you can do it in our show notes. Thanks again for listening. We're very, very grateful.